Chapter 1. The sky shimmered like a molten mirror, blinding and brutal. Straining his arms, Lucas Wren dragged the unconscious woman from the surf, her limbs limp as seaweed. He dropped to his knees beside her, breath ragged and panicked. "Don't you dare give up on me," he muttered hoarsely, brushing wet sand from her lips. A faint trail of seawater spilled from her mouth as he tipped her to one side. When it slowed, he turned her over and checked her pulse. Nothing. He began chest compressions, counting under his breath, his joined hands slamming rhythmically into her sternum. He stopped just long enough to sweep aside tangled strands of her dark hair and clamp his mouth over hers. His lips met hers with the urgency of someone who had too much to lose. He breathed into her, forceful and deliberate. 1 breath. Come on, take it. 2. Don't make me face this place alone. Around him, gulls screeched and dove toward the rotting carcass of a shark beached nearby. The sound was distant but eerily close. He squeezed his eyes shut. The memory of the shark circling them earlier, darting shadows beneath the surface, still pulsed like a warning. 3. Cough. Move, please. Something. He'd bargain with the universe if he had to. No more cigars, no more reckless bets at the tracks, no more late nights drowning in sake. Just let her live. Then she jolted. Just a twitch at first. Her mouth opened in a sputtering cough that sprayed salty water onto his arm. He sat back on his heels, relief washing over him like a second tide. Another cough followed, this one deeper, angrier, pulling air into her lungs with a vengeance. He exhaled hard, glanced skyward, and let out a choked laugh. Okay. I take it back about the cigars. The sake, maybe. Her mind swam through sludge, thick and suffocating. With each breath, her throat flamed like sandpaper. She flailed weakly, disoriented by the heat, the wetness pressing in around her, the pounding in her skull. A voice filtered through the static in her brain, gentle but firm. That's it. Just breathe. You're all right. She felt hands beneath her arms, then on her back, steady and reassuring. She leaned forward, gasping, her cheek resting against something warm, solid, alive. She lifted a trembling hand and felt hair, damp, coarse, and the strength of muscle beneath it. A man. Was she dreaming? Maybe she'd fallen asleep with a book on her lap again. Something vivid, something too dramatic. But no. Fond du Lac felt 1,000,000 miles away. Her eyes snapped open and immediately squeezed shut against the explosion of light. "Oh," she groaned, coughing again. Sparks danced behind her eyelids, a kaleidoscope of pain and brightness. "Please," her voice was a whisper. "Please, tell me where... What happened?" "We're on land," the man answered, voice calm but weary. "Surrounded by ocean. As for the rest..." He hesitated. She felt his fingers graze her face, brushing against her eyelids. "Open your eyes for me. I need to make sure everything's okay. I'll block the sun." She obeyed slowly, wincing at the sting. His hand was cool on her forehead and his shadow offered a blessed reprieve from the glare. Her arms were useless weights. "Nice eyes," he said softly. "Pupils look fine. Let's try something. How many fingers?" She squinted. 2? No, 1. Good. He shifted his hand, holding up another number. "And now?" 4, she managed. He smiled, and for the first time she focused on his face. It was rough-hewn, striking, angular cheekbones, faint stubble, a cleft in his chin. His lips curved tightly, caught between concern and relief. "All right," he said, his tone gentling. "Now for the big one. Do you remember where you're from?" She blinked, not because she didn't know, but because it was hard to look away from that face. "Oh no," Lucas muttered, dragging a hand through his damp hair. "Focus," he said, his voice rough with fatigue and urgency. "Try to think. Anything." Talia blinked slowly, still adjusting to the surreal light and surreal situation. His tone, low and scratchy, like gravel underfoot, pulled her attention. Her eyes locked on his. "Maine," she whispered, a small piece of herself snapping back into place. His gaze shifted subtly, and the creases beside his hazel eyes deepened with quiet approval. His hair, cropped and damp, clung to his forehead, and his heavy brows, dark with hints of gold, framed eyes far older than the rest of his sun-hardened face. Something in his expression, part smile and part sadness, said he understood more than he let on. "You're a long way from snow and dairy farms," he said with a lopsided grin. "But then again, so am I." He studied her face with the calm deliberation of a man who'd learned to read people fast and deeply. "Do you remember anything from this morning?" Talia hesitated. Her breath caught in her throat, and her vision passed over the thick column of his neck and the hard lines of his bare shoulders. She registered the absence of a shirt, but couldn't bring herself to wonder why just yet. Past him, the island stretched in surreal contrast, rolling white sand melting into an eruption of tangled green, palms and tangled vines, monstrous leaves and vibrant blossoms climbing over one another in nature's wild parade. She remembered the calendar. Late February. At home, snow would still be clinging to sidewalks. That thought yanked her further into reality. "I won a contest," she murmured, voice dazed. "A vacation package, the Azores. I left the hotel alone." Lucas nodded. "Took a charter this morning, right? Small boat, small group? It's Monday." She turned toward him with a sharp intake of breath. "You were there. You were writing something, notes, and there was an older couple taking pictures." "It's coming back," he said, gently tightening his hands on her shoulders as the memories tumbled into place. "The fog," she said breathlessly. "And lightning. The captain. He said he couldn't reach anyone, only static, but he tried to send an SOS and told us to put the life jackets on," Lucas finished quietly. "I can see it now. The waves, the boat lurching, the panic." Talia shuddered violently as her mind summoned the surge of cold water and the chaotic roar of wind and sea. She remembered clawing for the life vest, the boat tilting hard and her own scream swallowed by the storm. Her fingers clutched at Lucas's arm. "Where are the others?" she asked in a broken voice. He held her steady. "I haven't seen anyone else. It's possible they had better luck. Got their vests on in time." But his eyes didn't echo his words. "When the boat started tipping, I grabbed whoever was closest," he said softly. "That was you." She recoiled slightly, overwhelmed by the realization. A quiet moan slipped from her throat. "No. Hey, it's okay," he soothed quickly, drawing her into a firm embrace. "We're alive. That's something. Just breathe. You're with me now, all right? Lay your head here. Good. I want to get you into the shade. You're already burning." She didn't fight it. She let him lift her into his arms. Strong arms. Her thoughts drifted and spiraled as the motion of his stride rocked her. The last words she heard before everything went dim again were spoken near her ear in a low drawl. "Devil's sea, sweetheart. You never know what's gonna happen when you take a date with the devil." Lucas crouched beside her, his body still humming with residual tension as he looked down at her resting form on the bed of palm fronds he'd hastily assembled. The golden light of early evening filtered through the canopy above, casting fractured shadows across her skin. Now that the crisis had passed, he noticed everything. The curves of her face, the gentle rise and fall of her chest, the slight tremble in her breath. The mouth he'd breathed life into was full, lips chapped but soft-looking. Her hair, unraveled from its braid, caught the last rays of sunlight like spun rum, amber and wild. He stared too long. He knew it. He always had a weakness for long-legged, sun-kissed women, but this one was dangerous. Not in the obvious way. It was something quieter. Innocent, maybe. Real. And now, far from the composed young woman he'd glimpsed aboard the boat earlier that day. Her blouse had ridden up, revealing a slim waist and a peak of hip bone. Her pants were torn and damp, but even tattered, she was distracting. No makeup, no pretenses, just pure, vulnerable beauty. She had the kind of face that could stop a man in motion, high cheekbones, a sweet dusting of freckles, and wide eyes that had nearly knocked the air from his lungs. Blue, nearly violet, unforgettable. He swallowed hard. The tightness in his chest had nothing to do with survival now. He knew he shouldn't be looking, shouldn't be thinking the things he was thinking. But the human animal didn't always answer to logic. He'd been called Holing Eye, fierce tiger, by his master in Korea. A badge of honor once. Right now, though, it didn't feel so noble. Christ, he muttered, shifting as his jeans pressed uncomfortably into his thigh. He needed a cigarette, a cold beer, something to cool the fire his instincts had just poured gasoline on. She stirred, and her shirt rose just enough to reveal a small mole near her ribs. He looked away, looked back. Couldn't help it. Her body was lean and strong, her form sculpted by nature, not a gym. He respected that, admired it even. But it wasn't just lust. That wasn't what was eating at him. He'd carried her, fought for her, risked his life alongside hers. Something primal had been forged between them in the waves and silence and desperation. "Whoever you are," he said softly, brushing a damp curl from her forehead. "Fate threw us together. I don't know what that means yet, but I know this." He leaned in, voice no more than a breath against her skin. "You feel like mine." A memory flickered in his mind. His old sensei, voice serene and eternal, whispering wisdom wrapped in riddles. "You know when two souls recognize one another. They don't ask permission. They just remember." The fading light of evening draped the island in a soft veil of violet and rose. Lucas Kane sat beside the woman lying still on the sand, her breath shallow and uneven. She murmured something unintelligible, words lost in the twilight breeze. His eyes softened as they traced the delicate contours of her face, shadowed by the encroaching dusk. Carefully, Lucas untied 2 worn ribbons from her long, tangled hair, slipping them into his pocket. They might come in handy later. For now, he gently spread her loose strands like a halo around her head, a quiet gesture of care. "Rest now, my dear," he whispered, a term of affection slipping naturally from his lips. "Rest, so I won't need to explain what's happened." His fingers found their way to the hollow just above her navel, pressing lightly. The contact stirred something deep within him, an unspoken bond, as if their souls had brushed in another time. His fingertip drifted to a small, dark mole near her hip, and he felt a flicker of desire, primal yet restrained. Lucas battled the urge to succumb to those instincts, knowing the boundary between protection and passion must not be crossed, especially now. The ordeal of the sea had drained him. He was too weary for temptation to win. Seeking solace, he rested his head gently against her chest, letting the steady beat of her heart soothe him like a lullaby. Her rising breath was a soft cushion for his cheek, and as his hand stayed tangled in her hair, Lucas finally surrendered to exhaustion, slipping into a deep, peaceful sleep. Chapter 2. She wasn't sure if she was dreaming or awake, suspended somewhere between sleep and consciousness. The sensation of a soft surface beneath her back was unmistakable. Was she still in the motel room, drifting off after the complimentary champagne? Talia stretched lightly, savoring the slow warmth that wrapped around her like a cocoon. She didn't want to open her eyes, not yet. Not when the mattress felt like a cloud and the air carried the salty promise of the sea. A gentle breeze teased her skin, whispering across her waist. Then something, unexpected, electrifying, touched her navel. A shiver coiled through her, a low moan rising from deep within her throat. This wasn't just a dream. It felt far too vivid, too deliciously real. Surely she hadn't invited one of those charming strangers from the bar back to her room. The sensible, timid part of her wouldn't allow it. Not really. In her dreams, though, she was free. She could shed the cautious shell she wore by day, the librarian's quiet reserve, and embrace a daring, reckless side that longed to break loose without a trace of regret. The pressure at her waist deepened, and she became aware of warm breaths lightly fanning over her chest. Her nipples tightened in response, aching with need. No, she absolutely did not want this dream to end. Her body responded instinctively, arching upward, breasts yearning, hips rising in slow rhythm with the invisible touch. A strange warmth wrapped around her, as if her muscles were heavy with sleep yet sharply alive with sensation. Between her thighs, a teasing flutter awakened, begging for more. She parted her legs eagerly, craving a richer, more urgent touch. Her breath caught as fingers pressed into the seam of her pants, her own hands trembling as they reached beneath her clothing. A cry of desperation broke free, loud and raw, as she thrust upward to fill the aching void. Suddenly, her mind shattered the spell. She wasn't in a dream. She was on the jungle floor, grass and leaves pressing against her, and someone was unzipping her pants. "Oh my God!" she gasped, panic exploding in her chest. The man above her startled, his face rising slowly from the shadows cast by the dying light. His eyes burned with fierce intensity, familiar, dangerous. Though she was frozen, caught between shock and a growing confused desire, she knew those eyes. "Don't be afraid." His voice rasped, rough but calm. "I'm not here to hurt you." Talia nodded, her body taut, heart pounding as his hand lingered near her waistband. "What are you doing?" she demanded, voice trembling. He shrugged with a wry smile. "Trying to undo a mistake I made falling asleep before finishing what I wanted to do. Sorry about that." His hand slid away from her zipper and instead brushed gently over her bare stomach, a soothing gesture that only deepened the knot of tension in her. "Relax," he urged softly. "I know it's a lot to ask, but trust me, you're safer with me here than alone out there." Her eyes flicked toward the encroaching darkness of the jungle. He was right. No matter how frightened she was, running wasn't an option. "Look, I'm sorry for what happened. Well, not really sorry, but that's no excuse for touching you like that without your say-so. If you want to punch me, I won't fight back." He tilted his head, offering a cheek to strike, almost playful. Part of her wanted to. Then another part, a shocking, disarming part, realized her anger stemmed from a different place, the fact that he hadn't finished what he started before she woke. "Who are you?" she asked, voice shaky but firm. He grinned, unapologetic. "Lucas Kane. But if you want, you can call me anything you like." His smile softened the edges of her fear. Talia glanced down and saw her blouse was open, revealing a plain cotton bra, damp as if he'd kissed her through it. Her nipples were painfully hard beneath the fabric. Before she could cover herself, Lucas carefully gathered the torn fabric back together, his touch unexpectedly tender. "Let me help you sit up," he said quietly. Surprised by the strength and kindness in his hands, Talia didn't pull away. Instead, she accepted his support, letting him steady her. "Thanks," she said awkwardly, casting a cautious glance at the man who'd suddenly taken up his knife and a coconut. His hands moved with practiced ease, expertly working the blade into the tough husk as if this was second nature. It reminded her of how skilled he'd been with her, if only half awake. She wondered what lengths his talents might reach when fully alert and bent on seduction. "Here, drink a little of this." Lucas pressed the rough shell to her lips, and the oddness of the moment slipped away. She was parched. The cool liquid flowed down her throat, and she grasped his hands, trying to swallow the sweet juice. When he pulled the coconut away, her ingrained manners dissolved in the face of urgent thirst. She almost lunged to snatch it back. "Not too much," he warned firmly. "Not until I'm sure it stays down." "I'm dying of thirst," she groaned. "I have to drink more." "You nearly drowned last time you overdid it," Lucas said, voice steady. "The last thing you need is to make yourself sick now." "Drowned?" The word echoed numbly in her mind. "The sharks thought we were bait," he said grimly. "You lost your grip on me. You were out cold. It was touch and go for a while. When we made it to shore, you were flirting with angels." A faint, crooked smile touched his lips. "Glad you decided to stick around?" She blinked, stunned. She had died? That surreal plunge down a black tunnel lit with blinding light. Wasn't just a dream? Could near-death really feel like that? Her head spun, and she sank back on her elbows, willing the dizziness to pass. She didn't want to relive the drowning. Didn't want to think about a stranger's touch stirring primal reactions she never imagined she possessed. What she wanted was to wake up from this nightmare, to be home, brewing Darjeeling tea, curled up with a book by Dickinson or King, or at this point, even the back of a cereal box. Talia fixed her eyes on Lucas Kane, determined to face whatever truths he held. "You mean you brought me back?" "Mouth to mouth," he replied, his gaze dropping to her lips and holding there. "Though, usually I prefer a bit of cooperation." She squirmed beneath his look. "You saved my life. She searched for words but found none. "Grateful," she finished softly. "Thank you, Mr. Kane." "Mr. Kane?" He laughed. "Given our situation, drop the formalities, Ms. Hayes. Talia Hayes." "Talia," he said with a grin. "Fits you. Kind of matches that cultured, ladylike voice. Reminds me of someone I knew from Boston, streetwise but well-bred. Though I'd bet you've got more manners than street smarts." He studied her with those curious eyes, the lines at their corners deepening. "You wouldn't happen to be one of those blue bloods from Tampico, would you?" When she didn't answer, he stroked his chin thoughtfully. "A few years back, a friend and I went fishing around Hennepin Canal. Some of those mansions I glimpsed through binoculars. Whew, I can see you living in one of those." Her spine stiffened. She was doing her best to leave that life behind, but even in this jungle, he had her pegged. A rustling sound slithered through the brush, making her skin crawl. Forgetting her irritation, she edged closer to Lucas and fixed her gaze on him instead of the night's creeping shadows. "My family lives there," she admitted quietly. "I haven't seen them in a while. My apartment's in Waterville, Maine, close to the library where I work." Proud of her independence, she added, "I'm not rich. Actually, I'm pretty broke." "A librarian?" He seemed genuinely interested in that more than money, definitely a point in his favor. "Just reference for now." Her laugh was small and uneasy as the rustling grew louder. "Keep talking," he whispered, "but don't move." Lucas rose silently, stalking the sound with a predator's grace, silent as if floating above the ground. She was frozen in place, only her wide eyes tracking his every move, heart thudding in her throat. "That's the beauty of working with books," he murmured. "You never stop learning." He pressed a finger to his lips, signaling for silence. Talia wanted to close her eyes but couldn't. She clung to Lucas Kane's presence, silently begging nothing would happen to him before they were rescued. Then, with lightning speed, he lunged. His movements were fluid, machine-like precision. Suddenly, the rustling stopped. In his hand, he held a long, slender snake, its mouth stretched wide. He cracked it like a whip, the serpent's tail whipped wildly. Talia's scream choked off into a gasp as he severed its head. The twitching body rolled to her feet, its flickering tongue close enough to chill her. He tossed the remains beside the head. Fascinated despite herself, Talia watched the snake's dismembered body writhing in its death throes. Her neck jerked painfully, as if needing oil, and she stared at Lucas in disbelief. "You killed that snake." "Yeah," he said, wiping his knife on his jeans before sheathing it. "Never liked slimy stuff on my blades. Rust's a killer." "What are you going to do with that thing?" "Hungry?" He cocked his head, grinning. "Once it cools, I'll skin it and cook us dinner." "Dinner?" she repeated, incredulous. "You actually expect us to eat snake? Got any better ideas?" He closed the space between them with a few long strides. "Too dark to fish now. Besides..." His hand, large and strong enough to crush a snake, rested on her shoulder and slid slowly along her arm, chasing away the chill creeping over her. "The meat's good. We need strength. You more than me." Lucas's eyes glinted with a teasing humor, yet beneath it lingered a trace of something deeper, an unspoken memory between them. She dropped her gaze, settling on the snake's still, cold body. "You've actually eaten one of these?" Talia asked, trying to picture it. "More times than I can count. Rattlesnakes, pythons, all kinds. Green Berets call us snake eaters. They're damn tasty. No salt needed." Her eyes met his again, and the intensity of his stare hit her like a jolt. What kind of man was Lucas Kane? Not some frat boy groping at a party, nor was he the safe, predictable type she'd imagined after college. Best of all, he was nothing like the polished high society types her parents had endlessly tried to mold her into. "I guess I could try it," she said, gathering courage. "After all, you saved my life. I guess that means I should trust you on this. Good girl." He patted her arm, but his hand lingered, soft and lingering as a farewell touch. "Tell me what to do." "You watch. This time it's important you learn the basics. Just in case." "But why? We're safe now. Someone must have started searching for us. Rescue's probably on the way already." Lucas's brow furrowed, but he gave nothing away. Then, low and serious, he said, "While you were out, I made a rough SOS signal on the beach. I stacked some dry wood and brush, too. We'll get a fire going. You're starting to shiver." Talia realized he was right. Despite the sultry night air, a chill ran through her. Shock, the delayed tremors of trauma, and something else. A tingling, like tiny sparks running up her spine and raising the fine hairs on her neck. Tilting her chin up with a crooked finger, Luca examined her face as if trying to decide something. For a breathless moment, she thought he'd kiss her. "I'm going to grab the snake. You follow me, okay, partner?" A strange warmth bloomed inside her, a sweet sense of camaraderie with this unlikely companion who'd just inducted her into his rough-and-ready world. He didn't know it, but he'd given her something she'd longed for, a feeling of belonging, not unlike the comfort she found in books, except this was real, raw, and alive. She smiled, grateful. He probably thought it was just for his heroic rescue. "Lead the way, partner." He winked, then bent to scoop up the snake. Twirling its tail like a lasso with one hand, he grasped hers with the other. "Forward to the beach, matey. Time for campfire stories and the longest, wildest hot dog you'll ever taste, snake style. Shame I forgot the marshmallows." "Tried to bring the Rolling Stones, too?" she teased. Lucas's booming laughter echoed through the jungle, mingling with the distant calls of unseen creatures. Sure-footed and confident, he pressed onward. She couldn't see more than a couple of feet ahead, but as long as she held tight to his hand and kept her eyes on him, she felt safe, shielded from the darkness. Chapter 3. Talia let out a soft laugh as Lucas's attempt at the second Rolling Stones song turned out worse than the first. "Hey, what are you laughing at?" Lucas looked up from the spit where two Y-shaped branches held the snake turning over the fire. Talia clamped her mouth shut, but the indignant glare he shot from across the flames only loosened the dam of her restraint, and the giggle escaped in a loud burst. I'm sorry," she managed between laughs, wiping a tear from the corner of her eye. "It's just that you might be able to build one hell of a fire, but you're singing." "What? Don't you recognize talent when you hear it?" Lucas challenged, repeating the chorus even more off-key than before. Talia couldn't stop herself. She howled with laughter. "Don't take this the wrong way, but you sound like a hound baying at the moon." "Better than being told I sound like a cat in heat in an alley," Lucas grinned. A flush crept into Talia's sunburned cheeks. She imagined how her mother would react to that analogy, and the thought sent her into another fit of laughter. "You're starting to look pinker," Lucas observed. "Want me to put some more aloe vera on you?" Talia hesitated. The plant's cooling gel had been soothing, but sitting still while he carefully rubbed it over her arms and neck had put her nerves on edge. Not just yet, she decided, though a tiny part of her was disappointed. "Maybe we should try something other than the Rolling Stones," she suggested. "Heard any good arias lately?" Lucas teased. "How about something from the Magic Flute?" "Sure," Talia agreed, letting her voice rise and fall in a practiced, lilting cadence. Her notes floated through the warm night air, free and unburdened by expectation. She reached a high note and missed it slightly, stopping herself. "Go on, please," Lucas urged, his voice low with awe. Talia met his gaze, surprised to find genuine admiration there, the kind usually reserved for those truly gifted in her circle. "Guess I got carried away," she said with a soft cough. "My throat's still raw. I'll save the encore for later." "You're good," he said simply. "Better than good. Why aren't you on a stage somewhere instead of working behind library stacks?" Talia shrugged, aware of her own limits but also sensing a spark of joy she hadn't felt in years. "I can carry a tune, but not well enough for the opera. Besides, I love the library. I couldn't live without books." Lucas's brow furrowed and his face took on a look she couldn't quite read. He seemed on the verge of saying something but instead fell into that still, watchful pose she found both comforting and unsettling. A breeze swept in from the ocean, carrying a small spark from the fire that flickered and died on the sand. The embers glowed beneath the makeshift spit, held in place by 3 large rocks arranged in a triangle. "Remember what I said about lighting fires from the windy side?" Lucas said, nodding toward the direction the ash had drifted. "Since you're tired of singing, let's pass the time with some questions and answers." "What's your favorite hobby?" Talia asked. Lucas gave her a sly smile, one that said far more than his words would. "Let's stick to something less fun but more vital for now. Tell me how you'd use my knife and the flint to get a spark and start a fire." She thought of the spark she'd seen earlier, how effortlessly he'd handled the tools, his patience and calm. "First you gather the punk," she said, warming to the topic. "Small pieces of rotten wood dry enough to crumble." "And where do you find that?" "Look for bits that fall apart in your hand, dead wood inside rotting branches." "Next?" "A scrap of cloth. Rip a little piece from your clothes." "Thanks for the loan," he said, glancing down at her shirt. Talia shivered at the memory of him tearing that ragged piece off her blouse. So necessary, yet so savage and thrilling, especially with his bare chest barely covered as he worked. Hurtling past her usual shyness, she stole a quick glance at him. Despite his size, Lucas was lithe and strong, muscles rippling under his skin like a stallion after a race. Dark hair covered his chest, but several scars stood out, marks that somehow made him even more magnetic. Noticing her stare, he caught her eye, and the intensity there made her look away. "What do we do when we run out of clothes?" she asked, practical but hesitant to say it outright. "That's a silly worry," Lucas said quickly. "We'll be off this island before we have to start wearing fig leaves." He said nothing more, but his gaze held on her so intently she already felt stripped bare. "Okay," he finally said. "You've got tinder, cloth, knife, flint. Now what?" "You make the fire," she answered, pulling her arms tight around her crossed legs and watching the snake turn on the spit. "Not good enough. Come on, Talia. I want to know if you're average or Yale material." "Brown," she said without hesitation. The spit stopped turning, and she wished she hadn't given away that much. She wanted to be just a simple castaway under the stars, standing beside this master of the wild, rather than a woman with diplomas and pedigree. "Hold the fabric in your hand, right on top of the flint," Talia said. "Strike the blade against the stone so the spark lands on the cloth, then blow gently until it catches the tinder." "Perfect. You passed the test." Lucas's approval made her smile, a little glow of pride lighting her cheeks. "Why do you carry flint around? Not something most people keep in their pockets." "It's no ordinary flint. Come here and I'll show you." There was a pull inside her. His presence had a way of unraveling her, and she had to will her body to move. Her limbs felt loose, almost detached, but she noticed every grain of sand shifting between her toes as she stepped closer. Lucas's head was tilted up toward her, the firelight painting shadows across his face, making him seem like a man carved from mystery. His eyes caught hers, dark and shifting like a kaleidoscope, each glance a new pattern of color and meaning. A woman could easily get lost there, never wanting to leave. His gaze slowly traveled from her face down to her feet. "I like what I see, Talia," he said simply. He swept his hand across the sand, inviting her to sit beside him. Her breath hitched, a light dizziness rising like a heady tide. Her inner thighs tingled with a warmth she couldn't explain. Her knees gave way, and she sank down beside him. With solemn reverence, Lucas withdrew the flint from his pocket and held it open in his palm. She looked at him, puzzled. Was this some private ritual? A meditation? He dipped forward in a quick formal bow, then extended the stone for her to inspect. "Notice anything different?" She wanted to say no, that she only noticed that he was the most compelling, mysterious man she'd ever met, real or fictional, and secretly hoped rescue would take its time. "It's shaped like a 4-pointed star." The heavy metal felt warm in her hand, still carrying his heat. She touched one of its sharp points with her fingertip. "It's razor sharp, like a knife. It can kill." She looked up at him, startled by the weight in his voice. "Has it?" she asked, unsure if she wanted the answer. "Yes." "A snake?" He didn't answer. Her eyes flicked between him and the deceptively innocent flint. Something in that cold metal made her shiver. It felt dangerous in a way she couldn't place. "But it's more than a weapon," he added quickly. "The Manji Shuriken Star helps a ninja find spiritual enlightenment." "Ninja?" she repeated, thinking of cartoon warriors in green pajamas. "I guess you could say I'm into karate." Lucas chuckled as he brushed her palm with his fingers and slid the flint back into its place. "Is that how you move fast? When you grabbed the snake, all I saw was a blur. It was incredible. The ninja have secrets, an old discipline, philosophy, a way of life. I'm a bit of an adopted black sheep, but I hold to many of their teachings, though not all of them fit with some of my other, less noble habits." He tore off a sizzling piece of the snake on the spit, ignoring the small flame licking his skin. "Are you hurt?" she asked, eyes wide. "Hurts?" Lucas shrugged, unbothered. "The ninja and the green berets teach you mind over matter. The ninja are more poetic about it. They call suffering kuro. They believe enduring it makes you stronger, brings spiritual power." "So what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger?" "Bingo. Though I'm more the what doesn't kill me better run like hell type." He took a bite of the meat, then declared it done. "How did you get involved with both Western military and Eastern culture?" Talia asked, curious but careful to avoid the snake meat for now. One led to the other. "We can swap life stories sometime. Good way to pass the time." She backed away from the meat and he moved in closer, teasing her lips with it. "Come on, darlin'. It's chow time." "I've decided I'm not hungry." She pressed her lips tight, though her stomach growled its disagreement. "I washed my hands," he murmured, voice low and teasing. "I promise they're clean, probably a little salty, just enough flavor to make this tempting treat even better. Though after staring at that luscious mouth of yours all night, I'm sure nothing compares." His lips curved in a slow, lazy smile, inching dangerously close as his fingertips brushed her throat, a seasoned, sexy move from a man who knew exactly what he was doing. Her lips parted, eager for what she sensed would be the most exotic, fire-breathing kiss of her life. Lucas cupped her chin gently, fingers stroking before closing firmly. He tipped his head, and she closed her eyes, breathing in the smoky air. Then his tongue flicked teasingly over her lips, darted inside, and with a masterful swirl explored the tender inside of her lower lip. It quivered under him. She felt her pulse race beneath his touch. "Delicious," he whispered. "Definitely first rate." Replacing his tongue with a finger, he traced a rough, erotic groove. He tasted like salt, hunger, and man. "Lucas," he murmured in a silk voice. "You've never said my name. Say it now." "Talia," she breathed out on a sigh. Warm and thick, something tasting like chicken slipped into her mouth. Lucas pressed her jaw firmly closed, sealing in what he'd just given her. Talia's eyes snapped open. Lucas's smile was pleased, his heavy-lidded gaze promising pleasures she couldn't begin to imagine. "Bon appetit, darlin'," he said, voice thick with satisfaction. Talia hesitated a moment, weighing the idea of snake meat on her tongue. Deciding it wasn't half bad, she began to chew slowly, letting the unexpected flavors settle. Chapter 4. Lucas knelt beside the fire and carefully stacked 2 thick logs, coaxing the flames to life once more for their second night stranded. "You handled that fire like a pro, Talia. Seriously, I'm impressed." Talia smiled, warmth spreading across her face. "Thanks, Lucas. Honestly, I surprised myself. But you made it look so easy. I guess you're a natural teacher." He shrugged, a hint of pride flickering in his eyes. "Years at the dojang have their perks. Maybe I should give you a few lessons. Nothing fancy, just some basic ninjutsu moves. A kick here, a punch there, a throw for good measure." Talia laughed softly, uncertain but curious. "Sounds exciting. So, you're like a martial arts instructor?" "In a way," he said. "I'm a 5th-degree black belt. Started training in the military, but my real tutelage came from Korea. Still plenty to master, though." When she pressed for details, Lucas brushed it off casually. "I'll fill you in sometime, when the moment's right." Talia whistled low, clearly impressed. "A 5th-degree black belt? That's no joke. I'd think twice before challenging you." "Are you sure?" His smile deepened, teasing. She blushed and looked down, caught off guard. "What do you wish you had right now?" he asked, shifting the mood. Talia glanced at her hands, picking at a chipped nail polish. "Manicure?" "Nope." She giggled. "Dental floss. It's my secret obsession." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "Dental floss? Really?" She nodded, a little embarrassed. "I always keep some with me. Mint-flavored, waxed, the works. When I eat out, I sneak away to the restroom just to floss. I hate feeling like something's stuck in my teeth." He caught her hands gently, noticing the slight dampness from sweat. The electricity between them was undeniable. Lucas rubbed her palms softly, the warmth of the moment pulling them closer. "Do you have a stash at home?" "Just a couple of containers, like my own little emergency kit." "Your secret's safe with me." He gave her a solemn nod. He then began arranging a bed of palm leaves nearby. "I'll hunt for some beeswax tomorrow, something to chew on instead of brushing." "If that's too much trouble, I can wait until we get back," she said, glancing toward the horizon. "I figured the rescue team would be here by now." Lucas hesitated. She'd been through a lot already. He wasn't sure she was ready to hear about the plane he'd heard flying overhead earlier. Their SOS sign remained unseen, swallowed by the island's strange reputation. The Devil's Sea wasn't just legend here. It was a puzzle that defied explanation. Planes and ships were sometimes visible, yet the island itself seemed cloaked in mystery, unseen from above. Lighting tricks, atmospheric quirks, or something beyond science? Lucas believed a rational answer existed, but he wasn't completely dismissing superstition. "We'll find out soon enough," he finally said. Changing the subject, he finished preparing their makeshift bed. "So, what's your next wish?" "A clean sheet? A cold beer, actually a 6-pack. Maybe a bottle of sake on the side, and a cigarette wouldn't hurt." He lay back, eyes turning toward the open sky. "Come lie with me. Let's fall asleep under these stars." "Together?" Talia's gaze flicked nervously to the narrow sleeping space. The night before, Lucas had made 2 leaf pallets. He reached out, inviting her gently. Her movements were hesitant, awkward even, as she shifted beside him. When he pulled her close, her body stiffened briefly, but she didn't resist. Until now, Lucas had kept his distance, but tonight, the comfort of her warmth was irresistible. Her soft curves fit perfectly against his solid frame, a tempting contrast to his steady strength. Fighting the urge to wrap her in his arms was a test of his willpower. For several quiet moments they lay side by side, gazing up at the infinite sky. Without the city's haze, the stars burned with fierce clarity, a dazzling canvas overhead. "Kane-san," a voice whispered inside his mind. When will you learn? Earth, wind, fire, void. You move like the wind, breathe like fire, but your feet are rooted to the earth. You only stare into the void. Let go. Flow. The stars will show you the way. I see the Little Dipper, Talia said, pointing. And the Big Dipper, Lucas added. They look so different from here. Do you think they see us too? She asked softly. Maybe we look different to them as well. I hope so. She shifted closer, resting her head against his chest. Lucas tightened his arm around her, savoring the moment. They say the stars can reveal how we see ourselves. How do you see yourself, Lucas? He sighed, always reaching but never quite grabbing hold. I get that, she said, brushing her palm lightly over his chest. Her breath trembled, nerves threading through it. Are you married? Once. It didn't last. He hesitated, thinking of Yoon waiting on another continent. Maybe it was better if he stayed here, away from old ties. Maybe he could share his doubts with Talia, but the thought gave him pause. She made him feel young again, as if breathing fresh air into stale lungs. No, he decided. Yoon's shadow wouldn't darken this new, fragile connection. Honor. The word felt strange now, tangled with the memory of yesterday's impulsive touches. Perhaps his conscience was the only thing holding his desire at bay tonight. Lucas shifted under the weight of the night, eyes tracing the stars above. Talia's words settled softly beside him. Must have been tough, that marriage falling apart, she said quietly, voice gentle, almost a whisper. Lucas exhaled, the corners of his mouth twitching into a wry smile. I'm not sorry for it. Every mistake taught me something. Had he really learned? Agreeing to marry for reasons that felt right then but hollow now seemed a long way off, especially when the woman curled next to him, her warmth beckoning, made every resolve falter like brittle leaves in a breeze. His skin tingled where her fingers brushed lightly across his chest, barely a touch, tentative but enough to set a fire behind his ribs. I think it's time to call it a night, he said, voice low. How do you like to sleep? What's your spot? Her answer came swift. On my side. Same here. He shifted so she could lean into him, resting her head where his arm could cradle her. The small distance between them felt agonizingly wide, too much yet not enough. Talia? He counted silently, 1, 2, 3, 4, willing himself to keep control, to not cross that fragile line. But then her voice, soft and insistent, cut through the quiet. What does it really mean, to be a ninja? Lucas swallowed hard, fighting the pull of distraction. A ninja is a warrior, he said carefully, one who seeks balance and clarity. No wonder I feel safe with you. He closed his eyes against the sharp image her words painted, the graceful curve of her neck, the tempting line of her profile in the dim light. Naked, she'd be poetry made flesh. For a moment, he let himself drift with the stars, envisioning a night where nothing held them back, where she shed every hesitation and embraced desire with fierce abandon. I carry a warrior's heart, he murmured, and I do chase enlightenment. His hand slid slowly over her belly, feeling her tremble beneath his touch. But Talia, he whispered, voice rough with confession, I'm far from pure. Morning smelled of smoke and something roasting over the fire. Talia blinked awake to a sun-drenched day. Lucas had turned away, busy shaping the sparse kitchen. No coffee today, he called without looking. Just coconut milk. After we eat, I'll find some rainwater. She stretched and sighed, savoring the fleeting peace. The reality of rescue loomed. Their brief escape would soon end. How'd you know I was awake? She asked. I just did. His voice was quiet, a little tight. How'd you sleep? Like a rock. She laughed softly. Though I was a bit restless, thinking about, well, us? He said nothing, so she pressed, curious about the odd weight in his silence. Been up long? Long enough, he said shortly. His mood unsettled her, but the smell from the fire made her hopeful. "That smells good. You've converted me on the snake thing. Think there's any wild boar on the menu?" Lucas grinned, slicing a piece off the spit. "Nothing wild, just rabbit. Try it." She took it eagerly. The meat was tender, but the brief brush of his fingertip against her lips, just before he pulled back, stirred something far hotter than the fire. Books and libraries felt worlds away now. Soon she'd return to her quiet life, and the memory of this, the man, the heat, the spark, would flicker like a secret she'd never quite share. Lucas's eyes lingered on her, inscrutable. How did a woman make the first move? Could she? The old Talia wouldn't dare, but this new version, forged in this wild place, was braver. Her fingers shook as she peeled another piece of rabbit, leaning forward, teasing his lips with it. "My turn," she breathed. His gaze sharpened. Then, before she could pull away, his hand closed over her wrist, firm, unyielding. His eyes, a storm of earth and steel, pinned her in place. The scent of him, the raw power he radiated, it was intoxicating. He guided her hand slowly toward his mouth, lips parting to take the morsel, his tongue brushing her skin. Her breath caught, trembling between fear and desire. He sucked gently, almost worshipfully, pulling her fingers deeper into the hunger rising between them. A moan escaped her, soft but uncontainable. Her body tightened in response, longing echoing through every nerve. "Careful," he warned low, voice thick with promise. "Don't tempt me like that again, Talia. We're alone, and, darlin', I like to bite." From the base of the tall palm, Talia watched Lucas climb with effortless grace. Like a predator stalking its prey, he hugged the trunk, his hands and feet gripping every rough notch in a smooth, practiced rhythm that seemed almost mechanical. He reached the top without hesitation and called down, "Incoming!" before sending coconuts crashing down with playful thuds that echoed through the clearing. Talia laughed, the sound bright and free despite the lingering tension from that morning's abrupt confrontation at breakfast. Their afternoon trek had softened the edge Lucas's idea, suggested just as worry crept into her mind about the late arrival of their rescue boat. The island stretched before them in 3 distinct zones: sun-drenched shore, dense jungle, and rocky outcrops. Lucas took the lead, gently sweeping aside branches and guiding her with a gentleman's ease, as if they were on a casual date rather than stranded survivors. He pointed out herbs with medicinal uses, warning her away from the poisonous ones. She picked a juicy berry from a curved shell, savoring its burst of tropical sweetness. "Your turn," Lucas said, landing beside her with the fluidity of a jungle cat. "What? You expect me to climb that?" Talia's eyes widened at the towering palm. "Absolutely." He brushed aside the shell and tugged her arm toward the tree. "Come on, wrap your thighs around the trunk and slide your feet against the bark's ridges." She stared, disbelief clear. "No way, I'm not climbing that." "I say you are." His voice dropped into a drill sergeant's bark. "Climb." Talia hesitated. "But what if someone finds us? We won't hear them up there." Lucas's expression hardened. "I'll hear them before they see us. Trust me." She didn't doubt it after everything she'd seen him do today. He lifted her arms, guiding her hands around the bark. "Now use your thighs like I showed you." Talia shot him a glare. He raised a brow, daring her to resist. "Oh, need a boost?" he teased, slipping his hands beneath her hips. "Lucas!" she protested, squirming as his hands lifted her an inch off the ground. "I'm climbing, okay? I'm climbing." She pressed her feet against the trunk, mimicking his movements. Up 3 feet, maybe 4, then her grip failed. She slipped down, skin scraping against rough bark. "See? Told you I can't do it." She pressed her forehead against the tree, frustration prickling tears. "Now my sunburn's flaring up again. This is all your fault, Lucas Kane. You just wanted to laugh at me." She sniffled, heart raw, then felt his fingers brush her hair back, his lips ghosting over her cheek. "Talia," he said softly, "I'm not trying to make you miserable. I'm teaching you to survive." "Why?" she demanded, pulling away slightly. You keep saying that, but I don't need to climb trees or gut rabbits. The memory of his impromptu lunch demonstration made her shudder. I can drive to the store for fresh meat. Canned juice is fine with me. Lucas's hands found her waist, pulling her closer without pressure. We don't have that luxury here. He leaned in, voice low and sincere. We'll head back to camp. Put more aloe on that burn. I'm sorry you're hurting. Stop dodging, Talia whispered, heat rising between them, a wildfire she was powerless to control. You keep talking about survival, but when I say we should leave, you shut down. Why? Lucas's eyes held hers, steady and unyielding. Because I don't believe anyone will find us. Chapter 5. Talia stiffened, her back straightening like a fragile reed caught in a sudden breeze. Her gaze locked onto Lucas. If this is some kind of joke, I'm not laughing. Lucas's voice was steady, almost grave. Neither am I. His hand slid from her waist to cup the backs of her thighs, pulling her close until her body pressed against his. I swear I'll look after you. Her eyes blinked, trying to focus through the haze of adrenaline and confusion. The jungle around her felt both distant and close, like a dream slipping in and out of focus. But one thing was clear. The firm press of him against her, the rough beard grazing the crown of her head, sent a shiver of tension and something more tangled running through her nerves. She should be angry, furious even, but the sensations swirling inside distracted her, keeping her rooted, holding her in place. Tell me why you think we'll never get rescued, she whispered, voice trembling. Before she could react, Lucas's hands lifted her arms, pressing her palms high against the coarse bark of the tree. Hold on tight, he urged. Don't let go. Her fingers found purchase on the rugged surface, the bristly bark pressing between her breasts. An unexpected heat flared deep inside her. Lucas's palms traced slow, feather-light paths along her arms, barely brushing as if the jungle breeze itself was alive. Then, with a careful pinch, he pulled down her eyelids. Close your eyes, Talia, he instructed softly. Listen with everything, your skin, your breath, your heartbeat. Don't think with your head, feel with your body, be part of this tree, be part of me. She felt the weight of him shift as he straddled her thighs like two riders on a sturdy steed. The position was strange, intoxicating. Why are you doing this? She murmured, breath hitching. Several reasons, he admitted, voice low, laced with something unfamiliar. Though this isn't exactly how it's supposed to be done. He pressed closer, and Talia's grip tightened on the tree, arousal blooming sharp and sudden, nearly painful. Starting now, you have to think differently. You have to act fast without hesitation. We have to move as one, mind and body synchronized. But this position, she began. Is it uncomfortable? He asked. No. Arousing? She nodded, voice barely a whisper. Yes. Around them, the jungle sang, birds whistling, leaves rustling. The nutty scent of the tree filled her nose. The world felt at once old and new, solid and wild. What you're feeling, it's real. This tree is steady and ancient, grounding us, like I'm sharing my strength with you. We belong here, together. His voice was a steady drum in her ears. Yes, she breathed, surrendering to the moment. He began to massage her back, firm and slow. She sighed Lucas's name, caught in the pull of his presence. His thighs tightened around hers. I come from a military family, he said, voice dropping. My grandfather disappeared here, flying over these waters back in 45. It was Flight 19. Ever heard the story? Talia nodded, intrigued despite the heat. The strange compass readings, the pilots losing their way, then vanishing without a trace. That's right. Since I was a kid, I've devoured every book, every report. I joined the service too, got clearance to study this place more closely. I've been here countless times, by air, by sea. There's so much this area holds that no one understands. She arched back, enjoying the rhythm of his touch. That's why you took this cruise? Curiosity. he growled softly. And maybe something else. His hands traced her sides. How do I feel? Talia leaned into him. Good. Better than good. He groaned. Enough. Be still. His hands locked on her hips, stopping her movements with firm authority. The Devil's Sea, 44,000 square miles between Bermuda, Puerto Rico, and Miami. Since 45, over 100 planes and ships, thousands of people, just vanished. That happens all over the world, she said, voice uncertain. But not like this, Lucas insisted. No wreckage, no debris, no SOS calls. Just gone. No trace for the Coast Guard or anyone searching. It's like they drop off the face of the earth. There's debate about why, but the fact remains, we're in that zone. She swallowed hard, anxiety creeping in. But what about the fire you made last night? The signal? It's our best hope, but this place is vast, and we're just a tiny dot floating in the middle of nowhere. Finding us is like winning the lottery. Every year people disappear, never to be seen again. We might just be another number in the statistics. But they'll keep looking, won't they? My parents, they'd never give up. Lucas shook his head. Private planes and boats don't stand a chance against this vastness. The Coast Guard is overwhelmed. They'll look, sure, but not for long. And the captain never sent an SOS. That means no search grid, no clue where to start. It's as if we never existed. We do exist, she whispered fiercely. He nodded, voice grim. The Martin Mariner was the rescue plane sent after Flight 19. It disappeared the same way. No distress call, just static. Then nothing. The Navy launched the biggest search ever. Hundreds of planes, ships, submarines, private boats, yachts, weeks of hunting for wreckage, not survivors. But they found nothing. Without debris, no one knows where to look. To them, we're gone. You mean no one's really searching for us? Talia's voice cracked with disbelief. Lucas's gaze was steady, but the words that followed hit like ice. What they're after are bodies, wreckage, anything to prove where we went down. The ocean's too vast, their searches are quick, surface-level sweeps at best. I didn't want to tell you this, but you deserve to know the truth. Yesterday, before you were awake, I spotted a small patrol boat. They passed nearby, but didn't come close or linger. Either we were too far off their radar, or something out here keeps us hidden. Talia was stunned, unable to find words. Lucas's voice was quiet but chilling as he spoke, barely revealing the depths of his dread. She slumped, pressing her weight into the rough bark, fingers digging in. Do you think they're still looking? Maybe there's hope. It's not over yet. Her voice wavered on the edge of hope and despair. They probably didn't even realize we were missing until nightfall the day we vanished. When the alarm sounded, they'd have scoured the immediate area. People don't usually drift far from shore when lost at sea. But we're a long way out now, somewhere between the Azores and Bermuda. By yesterday afternoon, everyone involved knew the truth, and now on the third day, the sun's setting on the search. It's basically over. Panic crept into Talia's chest. Then we have to build a raft, she insisted, urgency rising in her voice. You're capable, Lucas. You can build something. We could escape. Or drown trying. His fingers tangled in the nape of her neck, pulling her head back gently until it rested on his shoulder. Listen to me carefully. I'm resourceful. I can live off the land, fashion tools, swim long distances, but even 50 miles wouldn't get us to safety. And the sharks out here? They wouldn't wait. We're stranded. Plain and simple. It's time to face that. But you could make a raft, right? Her voice shook as the grip on the tree tightened, almost choking the bark. In time, maybe. If I were alone, I'd risk it. But I'm not about to leave you behind to die alone out here. You could come with me. And end up sharing a watery grave? He pushed her away with a rough shake. That's reckless and desperate. No, Talia, we stay put. It's a miracle we even made it here. Silence stretched between them as she absorbed the crushing reality. Lucas's eyes narrowed, hard and unyielding, his lips pressed into a thin, grim line. He was forcing her to accept the impossible. No books, she whispered suddenly, voice small. No hot baths, no combs, no soap. Lucas eased his hold and she touched her hair cautiously. The strands felt stiff, gritty. No hotel or rescue ship awaited to restore her. She recoiled, repulsed. "You touched my hair," she snapped, eyes wild and accusing. "How could you touch something so filthy?" she spat. "It's grimy, like me." "I think your hair is beautiful, and for what it's worth, you're still breathtaking." "Don't say that. I can't even bear to touch it myself. Stay away. Don't touch me again. I feel like I'm crawling with lice." She frantically brushed imaginary bugs off her arms, clawing at her tangled hair like a desperate woman lost to madness. Lucas reached out, but she slapped his hands away, then balled her fist, ready to strike. Somewhere deep down she knew she was unraveling, irrational, frantic. But she needed to lash out, break something, anything. Her world, her identity, even her basic dignity, had been stripped bare. He caught her fist before it landed and held her wrists firmly in one hand, lifting them above her head as if to hang her from the tree. His eyes warned her with controlled frustration. Anger simmered dangerously close beneath his calm exterior, edged with something darker, raw. "I will find a way for you to bathe," he said carefully. "I'll make what you need to wash your hair. Hell, I'll even do it for you." "Yeah, right," she spat, struggling to regain control. "Who do you think you are? Some barbarian claiming he's king of the jungle?" "The land has its own rules," Lucas said steadily. "Here, survival is law. The strongest leads. Until you're ready, that role is mine." "So you're king and I'm your servant?" She wished she had the strength to fight back properly. If she did, she wouldn't hesitate to hit him. Anything to break free from this nightmare and find her way home. "We have roles to play. I protect and provide. I teach. You obey and learn. There are dangers you don't understand yet, but I'll show you. If I fall, you take my place. That's how we survive." "You sound like a savage who owns this place. Get your filthy hands off me, you disgusting—" He stepped closer, hand brushing over her backside, pulling her in as he pushed forward with a slow, deliberate grind. Her survival instincts screamed to choose her words wisely. "You're a beast." "Not yet," he said through clenched teeth, "but mark my words, we'll lose our civilized ways soon enough. Maybe we already have. We'll change how we eat, how we think, how we speak, how we live." Suddenly he released her arms, gripping her jaw in a strong hand. His face loomed over hers, intense, unyielding. "How about a kiss from a savage?" he demanded. "Stop," Talia hissed, pushing weakly against Lucas's chest, fists trembling. "I won't let you." Lucas smirked, dark eyes sharp. "You can scream at the wind all you want, Talia. Savages don't wait for permission." She opened her mouth to curse, but he crushed his lips over hers before a sound could escape. Her anger echoed silently inside his mouth. He held back, no tongue. She'd surely bite it if he dared. Instead, he claimed her with a fierce, commanding kiss, lips pressing hard, shifting with urgent strength. Then he softened, coaxing, tugging gently, a slow, tender rhythm that broke through her resistance. Her fight melted away. She stopped resisting, not just him, but herself, and surrendered to the smooth pull of his mouth. The power between them shifted, conqueror and captive tangled into raw need, fierce and mutual. He pulled back just enough, and their breaths mingled raggedly in the humid air. The sense of fear, frustration, and desire hung thick between them. They stared into each other's eyes, narrowed, hungry, blind to anything but the flame burning in the other's gaze. His chin brushed her lips. She kissed the rough stubble, teasing the cleft in his jaw with her tongue. "Now I'm asking," he whispered, rough and low. "Kiss me." Her hands tangled in his tangled hair, fingers threading through strands wild and unwashed. Their mouths met soft and slow at first, then deeper. She offered her tongue and he welcomed it, swirling it in a slow dance that sent ripples of strange, aching pleasure through her. He tasted of mint and earth, the wildness of the jungle lingering on him. Without breaking the kiss, he stepped closer, guiding her backward until the rough bark supported her back. His hand slipped between her legs, warm and insistent, tracing a path that made her knees tremble and part beneath his touch. He lifted her, hips settling against his waist. The hard line of his stomach pressed into her, muscles taut beneath warm skin. A deep ache coiled inside her, deeper than fear or hunger, and her fingers dug into his shoulders, clutching like a lifeline. A desperate, aching sound escaped her lips, a raw, pleading cry. He growled in response, deep and guttural. She was lost to the fever of her body, torn by wild hunger she could neither name nor deny. She rubbed against him, seeking release, something, anything, to escape the madness clutching her heart. Slowly he lowered her, grinding against her hips with urgent need. Their breaths mingled in ragged gasps, animalistic sounds breaking the silence. The sharp scrape of a zipper echoed as he pulled it down, his hand sliding inside, exploring. The sensation overwhelmed her. She was drowning beneath waves of sensation, no air to catch, no pause to gather herself. Who was she now? The shy woman from before was gone, replaced by this wild, desperate creature wrapped around a man who had saved her and who she had lashed out against in frustration. She'd tried to hit him. And now he was touching her, feeling her, and they were consumed by an uncontrollable fire born from pain and need. "Virgin," he muttered thickly. "You're too tight not to be." He slipped her hand between them, guiding it toward the source of their passion, and warning her of the pain that would come. "God, I don't want to push you, but this time, the choice is yours. Make it quick before I take it for you." He was solid and strong beneath her, built in perfect balance. What was she thinking? She must be mad. Her mouth fell open, staring at him, torn between two selves, torn between fear and desire, innocence and abandon. "No," she whispered, voice raw and shaking, barely her own. "Okay," he said softly, breath ragged. "Okay, not yet." He pressed his forehead to hers, eyes shining with a fierce, strange light that seemed to draw power from somewhere beyond them. "But soon, Talia, soon. This need inside me, it's clawing its way out. It's inside you, too. It won't be long before it takes us both. Nature's law, God made man and woman for each other." Tears welled in her eyes. "I want to go home." "You are home," he murmured. Before she could say more, he zipped her pants and lifted her into his arms, the jungle closing around them like a dense, wild cage. She buried her face against his neck, trying to quiet her sobs. "Don't cry, love," he whispered gently. "We're on our way, and I promise you'll get that bath.